Admiral Vexter's massive form dominated the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Death's Herald. His 6 compound eyes reflected the blue glow of the holographic display, showing a small, unremarkable planet spinning lazily in the void. Target 47. Earth, just another primitive world to add to the Empire's collection. The Admiral's Katanus exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights as he studied the intelligence reports floating before him. Chemical rockets, nuclear fission weapons, electromagnetic communications. These humans were practically cavemen compared to the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Pathetic, Vexter muttered, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated through the bridge deck. 3,000 years ago, we surpassed their most advanced technology. How did this species even survive long enough to develop spaceflight? Tactical Officer Morden approached, his 4 arms carrying data tablets. Unlike his Admiral, Morden was younger, with bright orange markings across his carapace that indicated his relatively junior status in the Imperial hierarchy. Admiral, final orbital reconnaissance confirms our initial assessment, Morden reported, his mandibles clicking with barely contained excitement. No orbital defense platforms, no energy shielding around their planet. Their most powerful weapons appear to be ground-based missile installations with chemical explosives. Vexter's laugh was like grinding metal. Chemical explosives, by the Empire's glory. They're still using combustion-based technology. Our smallest escort frigate could level their entire military infrastructure without breaking stride. The bridge crew buzzed with amusement. Junior officers shared looks of disbelief while senior commanders shook their heads in mock sympathy for the doomed world below. Sir, Communications Specialist Sektar called from his station. We've been monitoring their electromagnetic transmissions. They appear to be discussing something called defense preparations, but our linguists believe it's just political posturing for their population. Let them posture, Vexter said, waving a dismissive claw. It matters little. Signal the fleet. Commanders, we advance in Conquest Formation Delta. Standard overwhelming force doctrine. I want this world pacified before their sun sets on their largest population centers. The massive Imperial armada spread across space like a metallic storm cloud. 200 warships of various classes formed up in perfect military precision. Dreadnoughts the size of cities led the formation, their hulls bristling with weapons, capable of cracking moons. Behind them came heavy cruisers, their plasma cannons charged and ready. Destroyer squadrons flanked the main force, their void torpedoes armed with antimatter warheads. This was the same formation that had brought the warrior clans of Arcturus to their knees in a single day. The hive mind collectives of Kepler 442 had surrendered after witnessing just one demonstration of Imperial firepower. Even the ancient crystal cities of Proxima Centauri, with their mysterious energy technologies, had fallen within a week. Fleet reports ready, Admiral Morden announced. All weapons systems charged. Planetary bombardment arrays standing by. Vexter nodded approvingly. Excellent. Begin final approach. I want their governments to see us coming. Fear is often more effective than firepower at securing quick surrenders. Deep beneath the bustling streets of Seoul, in a command center that officially didn't exist, Commander Park Dae-ho watched the alien fleet's approach on displays that showed information no civilian radar could detect. The underground facility hummed with quiet activity as dozens of officers and technicians monitored systems the public had never heard of. Park was a tall man with graying temples and steady hands that had seen action in conflicts most people would never know about. His uniform bore no insignia that would identify his true rank or the organization he served, but everyone in the room treated him with the respect reserved for someone who had proven himself in impossible situations. Sir, final confirmation from Deep Space Monitor Station 7, reported Communications Officer Lee Ji-woo, a young woman whose fingers danced across holographic controls that wouldn't be invented for decades according to public knowledge. The alien fleet will reach engagement range in 2 hours and 47 minutes. Any change in their formation? Park asked, his voice calm despite the magnitude of what was approaching. Negative, sir. They're maintaining standard attack formation. No deception, no scouting ahead. No attempts at flanking maneuvers, replied Major Kim Tae-sung from his tactical station. The major was a compact man with sharp eyes who had spent his career studying alien military doctrine from previous encounters the public never learned about. Park frowned. They're either supremely confident or supremely stupid based on their previous conquests. Probably both, Kim said. Intelligence reports show they've used the same overwhelming force tactics on 46 previous worlds. It's worked every time because those worlds didn't have what we have, Park replied quietly. Li Jiwu looked up from her console. Sir, we've been broadcasting standard diplomatic frequencies for the past 6 hours. First contact protocols, offers to negotiate, even basic mathematical sequences to prove we're intelligent. They're not responding to any of it. They don't want to talk, Park said. They want to conquer. That tells us everything we need to know about their intentions. The command center fell silent except for the quiet hum of advanced technology. Every person in the room knew what was about to happen would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Park turned to Major Kim. Signaled all defense platforms. Initiate contingency 7. Full stealth mode until further notice. Yes, sir, Kim replied, his fingers already working across his control surface. All Guardian platforms report ready. Temporal displacement fields are online. Matter manipulation arrays are charged and standing by. Above them, the alien fleet continued its approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority, unaware that they were about to encounter technology that would challenge everything they thought they knew about warfare, physics, and the nature of reality itself. The Imperial fleet tore through the fabric of space itself as they dropped out of hyperspace. 200 massive warships materialized in Earth's solar system like metallic thunderclouds, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. The largest vessels stretched over 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapon systems that could glass entire continents. Admiral Vexter stood on the command deck of Death's Herald, watching Earth's pale blue marble grow larger on his displays. His 6 eyes reflected the satisfaction of countless successful conquests. This would be conquest number 47 for his personal record. Status report, he commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. All fleet elements in position. Admiral Morden reported, weapon systems online. Planetary bombardment arrays locked onto major population centers. Vexter's mandibles clicked with anticipation. By now, every world they had encountered would be broadcasting frantic surrender messages, begging for mercy, offering tribute and slaves in exchange for their lives. His communications officer, a nervous junior named Sector, looked up from his console with confusion written across his insectoid features. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the third planet. Excellent, Vexter rumbled. Put their pathetic pleas on the main speakers. Let the crew hear how another world bows before Imperial might. But instead of desperate screaming or political surrender speeches, a calm professional voice filled the bridge. Greetings, visitors. This is Representative Choi Minho of the United Earth Defense Council. We welcome you to our solar system and would like to invite your leadership for diplomatic discussions at Lunar Station. Light refreshments will be provided, along with cultural exchange materials and translation assistance. The bridge fell completely silent. Several junior officers looked around in confusion, as if they had misheard the transmission. Refreshments, Morden hissed, his forearms gesturing wildly. Cultural exchange. Do these creatures not understand that we are here to conquer them? Are they mentally defective? Vexter studied his tactical displays, searching for signs of the panic that should be gripping the planet below. Instead, he saw something that made no sense. Earth's cities continued their normal operations. Traffic moved along highways. Aircraft followed regular flight patterns. Orbital shuttles launched and landed on schedule. Where are their military mobilizations, he demanded. Where are their evacuation fleets, their defensive formations? Sensor operator Krolvex, a veteran of 30 conquest campaigns, hunched over his instruments with growing bewilderment. Sir, I'm not detecting any military buildups. No fleets launching from their surface. No weapons platforms deploying. They appear to be ... continuing their normal daily activities. Impossible, Vexter snarled. No species is that calm when facing annihilation. Sir, Krolvex continued, his voice uncertain, I am detecting some unusual energy readings throughout the system. The signatures are unlike anything in our military databases. The patterns don't match fusion reactors, antimatter containment, or plasma generation. Vexter waved a dismissive claw. Sensor ghosts from their primitive technology. Their crude systems are probably interfering with our advanced sensors. He turned to Morden. Accept their invitation. I want to see the fear in their eyes when they realize the hopelessness of their situation. Perhaps watching their leader beg will amuse the crew. 2 hours later, Admiral Vexter's personal shuttle docked with Lunar Station, a elegant structure that orbited Earth's moon. As he stepped through the airlock, accompanied by a full honor guard of Imperial Marines, he expected to find humans cowering in terror. Instead, Representative Choi Minho waited in the reception bay with a genuine smile. The human was middle-aged with graying hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He wore simple civilian clothes and carried himself with the relaxed confidence of someone meeting an old friend rather than a conquering alien warlord. "Welcome aboard Lunar Station," Choi said warmly through a translation device that somehow produced perfect Imperial language. "I'm Minho Choi, former professor of xenobiology at Seoul National University. This is quite exciting for us, our first contact with an advanced spacefaring civilization." Vexter S6 eyes studied the human carefully. Either this creature was the greatest actor in the galaxy, or he genuinely wasn't afraid. Both possibilities were disturbing. "Your ship designs are fascinating," Choi continued conversationally as he led them down a corridor lined with viewing ports, showing Earth below. "Very elegant use of fusion propulsion systems, though I must admit, we abandoned fusion technology several centuries ago, found it a bit too limited for our needs." "Limited," Morden interjected. "Our fusion drives can propel vessels at significant fractions of light speed." "Oh yes, quite impressive for that technology level," Choi agreed pleasantly. "We went through a similar phase in our development. Would you like to see our current propulsion research? We're working on some interesting applications of space-time manipulation." They entered a comfortable conference room with a large table surrounded by chairs designed to accommodate various body types. Large windows provided a stunning view of Earth, its blue surface swirled with white clouds. Admiral Vexter had had enough of this bizarre performance. He drew himself up to his full, imposing height and activated his voice amplification system, filling the room with his most intimidating command presence. "Enough of this charade, human," he roared. "I am Admiral Vexter of this Ephraim Imperial Navy. You will surrender your world immediately and submit to Imperial rule, or I will reduce your cities to radioactive ash." Choi blinked in surprise. Then his expression shifted to something resembling disappointment. "Oh," he said quietly. "You're here for conquest. How ... unfortunate. I was really hoping for scientific and cultural exchange." He gestured to a side table where an elegant tea service waited. "Would you like some tea while we discuss alternatives? This particular blend is from the mountains of Korea, quite soothing during stressful conversations." Vexter stared at the human, his tactical mind racing. In 46 previous conquests, not a single species had responded to his ultimatum with an offer of tea. Something was very, very wrong here. For 3 grueling hours, Admiral Vexter had endured what he considered the most frustrating diplomatic meeting of his military career. The human called Choi Minho continued to speak about mutual understanding and shared scientific advancement, as if an invasion fleet wasn't hovering over his homeworld. The Admiral's patience finally snapped, like an overstressed metal beam. "Enough of this madness." Vexter's roar shook the conference room windows. His 6 eyes blazed with fury as he towered over the calm human diplomat. "You sit there sipping your primitive leaf water while the most powerful fleet in the galaxy prepares to turn your world into cosmic dust." Representative Choi set down his teacup with steady hands. "Admiral, violence has never solved anything. Perhaps if we discussed your empire's actual needs, our needs." Vexter's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "Our need is conquest. Our need is your complete surrender. You will learn to fear the Zephyrian Empire." The Admiral spun around, his heavy footsteps echoing as he stormed toward the airlock. "You want to see what defiance costs? Very well, you will have your demonstration." Back aboard the Bridge of Death's Herald, Vexter's rage filled the command center like a toxic cloud. His officers had seen him angry before, but never like this. Junior crew members scurried to their stations, desperate to avoid their admiral's wrath. "Communications, open a channel to the Worldbreaker," he commanded, his voice deadly calm now. The sudden quiet was somehow more terrifying than his earlier shouting. Captain Decaran's image appeared on the main screen. The Worldbreaker was the Empire's most devastating ship, designed specifically for planetary bombardment. Its quantum disruptor cannon could crack moons and turn continents into molten seas. Admiral Vicaron saluted, awaiting orders. "Target the uninhabited landmass in their western ocean," Vexter ordered. "Coordinates are being transmitted now. I want a full power demonstration that will be visible from every city on their pathetic world." "Sir, full power." Decaran's surprise was evident even through the translation system. "That's enough energy to destroy a small moon." "Do it," Vexter snarled. "Let them see what happens when primitives challenge the Empire." The Worldbreaker slowly turned its massive bulk toward Earth. The ship was over 6 kilometers long, its hull covered in weapon systems that had reduced 46 worlds to submission. At its heart lay the quantum disruptor cannon, a weapon that could unravel matter at the subatomic level. Charging quantum disruptor cannon, Dekaran reported. Power at 20%, 40%, 60%, Throughout the Imperial fleet, officers watched their displays with anticipation. Many had never seen the world-breaker fire at full power. The weapon was so devastating that most enemies surrendered after witnessing just a fraction of its capability. 80%, 90%, 100%, Dekaran announced. Quantum disruptor cannon, fully charged and locked on target. The massive weapon began to glow with an eerie blue light. Energy patterns danced along its surface as exotic particles built up inside the firing chamber. The air itself seemed to vibrate with barely contained power. Fire, Vexter commanded. The quantum disruptor cannon unleashed a beam of pure destruction. The energy blast was so intense it lit up the surrounding space like a second sun. The beam screamed across the void toward Earth, carrying enough power to vaporize mountains and boil oceans. On Earth's surface, in the hidden command center beneath Seoul, alarms began chiming softly. Commander Park Dae-ho looked up from his reports as displays throughout the room came alive with data. Energy discharge detected from the alien flagship, Major Kim Tae-sung reported calmly. High-intensity particle beam, approximately 500 tera. Impact in 17 seconds. Planetary defense grid status. Park asked, not sounding particularly concerned. All systems nominal, replied Technical Officer Yoon So-young from her monitoring station. Grid is operating at 12% capacity, more than sufficient to handle this level of attack. The quantum disruptor beam struck Earth's planetary defense field 50,000 kilometers above the planet's surface. The invisible barrier absorbed the massive energy discharge without so much as a flicker. The destructive beam spread across the shield like water hitting a window, creating a spectacular light show that painted the surrounding space in brilliant blues and purples. The energy dispersed harmlessly into space, leaving Earth completely untouched. Aboard the Worldbreaker, Captain Neckaron stared at his instruments in disbelief. Admiral, impossible readings. Our full power shot had zero effect. Their planetary shielding absorbed the entire discharge. On the bridge of Asterisk's deaths, Herald Asterisk, the silence was deafening. Every officer stared at their displays, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Their most powerful weapon had been stopped cold by defenses they couldn't even see. Run a full diagnostic on all sensors, Vexter ordered, his voice hollow. There must be some mistake. Communications Officer Lee Ji-woo's voice crackled through the Imperial Fleet's communication system. Admiral Vexter, this is Commander Park Dae-ho of Earth Defense Command. We noticed your weapons test. Our planetary defense grid has been operational for quite some time now. We'd still prefer to discuss peaceful coexistence, if you're interested. The tone was polite, almost friendly, as if the humans were commenting on the weather rather than surviving a planet-killing attack. Sensor operator Krolvex worked frantically at his station, his 6 arms dancing across multiple control surfaces. Admiral, I'm detecting new contacts throughout the system, thousands of them. How did we miss them? Show me, Vexter demanded. Tactical display updated, and suddenly space around Earth came alive with contacts. Massive structures appeared on sensors, platforms, stations, and installations that hadn't been there moments before. They surrounded the Imperial fleet completely, having somehow remained invisible until now. They were cloaked, Morden whispered, his voice filled with growing horror. We've been surrounded since we arrived. They were watching us the entire time. Admiral Vexter realized with dawning terror that everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. Admiral Vexter's pride burned hotter than a dying star. In 46 conquests, no world had ever withstood Imperial firepower. No primitive species had ever humiliated the mighty Zephyrian Empire. His reputation, his career, his entire understanding of galactic power structures hung in the balance. This ends now, he roared, his 6 eyes blazing with fury. No monkey creatures will make fools of the Empire. The bridge crew watched their admiral pace like a caged predator, his massive claws leaving scratches in the deck plating. Tactical Officer Morden nervously approached with updated fleet status reports. Admiral, perhaps we should consider strategic withdrawal and call for reinforcements. Withdrawal. Vexter's voice shook the entire bridge. We are the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. We do not retreat from primitives. He spun toward the communications station. All ships, attack formation, Delta, full assault pattern, converge on the planet and overwhelm their defenses. Throughout the massive fleet, ship commanders received their orders with growing unease. Formation Delta was designed for overwhelming primitive worlds with massive firepower. It had never failed before, but then again, they had never encountered defenses like Earth's. The Bloodfang, a heavy cruiser, moved into position alongside the dreadnought Iron Will. Captain Morketh activated his ship's combat systems, watching as weapon arrays powered up and plasma torpedoes loaded into firing tubes. All ships report ready for assault. Communications Officer Sector announced. Begin the attack, Vexter commanded. Show these humans the true meaning of Imperial power. 200 warships surged forward like an unstoppable tide of metal and fury. The void between them and Earth filled with deadly energy as plasma cannons fired in perfect synchronization. Quantum torpedoes streaked through space, leaving trails of exotic particles. Particle beam weapons carved brilliant lines of destruction through the darkness. The Imperial fleet had never looked more magnificent or more terrifying. Deep beneath Seoul, in the command center that didn't officially exist, Major Kim Tae-soon watched the alien attack unfold on his tactical displays. The energy readings were impressive, enough firepower to level continents and boil oceans. Sir, final warning transmissions have been ignored, he reported to Commander Park Dae-ho. They're committed to full assault. Park studied the approaching fleet with the calm of someone who had seen this scenario played out in countless simulations. They've made their choice. Activate Guardian Protocol. All platforms, weapons free. Yes, sir, Kim replied, his fingers dancing across controls that would have seemed like magic to most of Earth's population. Guardian Protocol activated. All defensive systems online. Major Han Jimin, the facility's senior tactical coordinator, opened channels to orbital platforms hidden throughout the solar system. All Guardian stations. This is Seoul Command. Engage hostile fleet. Rules of engagement. Disable and capture when possible. Destroy when necessary. Space around Earth suddenly came alive with activity. Thousands of previously invisible platforms materialized as their cloaking systems deactivated. But these weren't the massive gun batteries or missile launchers that other species might expect. These were something far more advanced: manipulation arrays that could alter the fundamental forces of reality itself. The first Imperial ship to cross into Earth's defensive perimeter was the heavy cruiser Bone Crusher. Captain Yekta watched his forward displays as Earth grew larger, preparing to unleash his ship's full arsenal on the planet's surface. Then sections of his ship simply stopped existing. The bow of the Bone Crusher vanished first, not destroyed, not vaporized, but simply edited out of reality as if it had never been there. The crew in the forward sections didn't even have time to scream before they found themselves floating in vacuum where solid deck plating had been moments before. What's happening to our ship? First Officer Gekaron screamed as more sections of the hull disappeared randomly throughout the vessel. Captain Yang Soo-jin monitored the engagement from her command station aboard the orbital platform Harmony. The platform was invisible to conventional sensors, hidden within a pocket of folded space-time that made it exist slightly outside normal reality. Matter displacement field operating within normal parameters. Her operations officer, Lieutenant Kong Du-eon, reported. Target vessel losing structural integrity. Gudyang replied calmly. Select next target. Let's show them the full range of our capabilities. Aboard Death's Herald, Admiral Vexter watched in horror as his flagship began experiencing impossible phenomena. The artificial gravity in the port section suddenly reversed, sending crew members flying upward to crash against the ceiling. Loose objects began orbiting the bridge in spirals that defied every law of physics he understood. Engineering, report, he commanded, struggling to maintain his footing as gravity shifted randomly around him. Sir, our gravitational generators are operating normally, Chief Engineer Vogta replied in confusion. The anomalous gravity fields are coming from outside the ship. The dreadnought Times End suffered an even stranger fate. Captain Zor watched his instruments in growing panic as his ship began aging decades in seconds. Hull plating corroded and crumbled. Advanced computer systems failed as their components deteriorated. Crew members found their exoskeletons growing brittle as temporal acceleration fields targeted their vessel. Time itself is attacking us, his science officer screamed before collapsing as his own biological systems aged beyond their limits. Meanwhile, the destroyer's swift death simply stopped. Not destroyed, not damaged, but frozen completely in a temporal stasis field. The ship hung motionless in space like a museum piece, its crew trapped in a single moment of time. Throughout the Imperial fleet, impossible things were happening. The cruiser Starender found its molecules spontaneously rearranging into harmless gases, its crew breathing what had been solid metal moments before. The battleship Worldender was caught in an artificial gravity well that compressed it into a perfect sphere, crushing its kilometer-long hull into a ball no larger than a shuttle bay. Several vessels simply vanished into pocket dimensions, their final transmissions cutting off mid-sentence as they were folded into spaces that existed between the cracks of normal reality. Sensor operator Krolvex worked frantically at his station, trying to understand what was happening to the fleet. Admiral, the humans aren't using weapons as we understand them. They're manipulating fundamental forces, matter, energy, time, space, itself. Captain Li Minzhen, commanding the Guardian platform Phoenix Rising, coordinated the defense with military precision. Platform 12, reduced temporal acceleration on that dreadnought. We need survivors for diplomatic contact. Acknowledged, came the reply, adjusting chronoton field to standard flow. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. When the impossible light show finally ended, fewer than 30 Imperial ships remained intact. The mighty Zephyrian fleet, pride of an empire that had conquered nearly 50 worlds, lay broken and scattered throughout Earth's solar system. Admiral Vexter sat in his damaged command chair, staring at displays that showed the complete destruction of everything he had believed about warfare, about power, about the natural order of the universe. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of existence itself. Admiral Vexter slumped in his command chair, his massive form trembling as he surveyed the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Sparks flew from damaged control panels around him, and the acrid smell of burned electronics filled the bridge. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the faces of his surviving crew members. His tactical display told a story that would have been impossible just hours ago. Of the 200 warships that had arrived to conquer Earth, only 28 remained even partially functional. The rest were either completely destroyed, trapped in temporal fields, or drifting as twisted metal sculptures where reality itself had been rewritten. Life support holding at 60%, reported Chief Engineer Vokter, his voice hollow with shock. Hull breaches sealed, but our main power core is operating on emergency backup only. Vexter barely heard him. His 6 eyes remained fixed on the tactical screen, trying to process how everything he had believed about warfare and technology had been shattered in less than 10 minutes. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. Communications Officer Sektar looked up from his damaged console, his mandibles clicking nervously. Admiral, we're receiving a communication from the planet. Audio only. Put it through Vex said, his voice barely above a whisper. The voice that filled the bridge was calm, professional, and surprisingly gentle. Admiral Vexter, this is Commander Park Deho of the United Earth Defense Council. I want you to know that our medical ships are standing by to assist your wounded crew members. We're also prepared to provide safe passage back to your territory, along with complete diplomatic materials explaining our desire for peaceful contact with your empire. The offer hit Vexter like a physical blow. In 46 conquests, no defeated enemy had ever offered him medical aid. No primitive species had ever shown mercy to Imperial forces. The very concept was alien to everything he understood about galactic politics. Tactical Officer Moiden, his orange carapace streaked with his own green blood from flying debris, stared at the communication panel in disbelief. They're offering to help us, after we tried to destroy their world. Vexter's mandibles trembled as conflicting emotions warred within him. His pride as an Imperial officer demanded that he fight to the last breath, that he die with honor rather than accept aid from enemies. But his responsibility to his surviving crews, to the thousands of wounded Zephyrians floating in damaged ships throughout the system, demanded something else entirely. How he croaked into the communicator, his voice breaking. How did a primitive species develop technology that makes our most advanced weapons look like children's toys? There was a brief pause before Commander Park responded, and when he did, his tone carried no mockery or triumph. We're not primitive, Admiral. We simply chose a different path than your empire while you focused on conquering others. Humanity focused on understanding the universe itself. We discovered that reality is far more malleable than most species realize. Through the cracked viewport of his bridge, Vexter watched sleek white vessels approach the scattered Imperial fleet. The human medical ships moved with impossible grace, gliding through space without any visible propulsion systems. They seemed to bend space-time around themselves, sliding through the fabric of reality like dolphins through water. Dr. Hong Minji stood in the medical bay of the hospital ship Mercy, reviewing the biological data on Zephyrian physiology that Earth's scientists had compiled during the brief diplomatic meeting. As chief medical officer for the relief operation, she felt the weight of responsibility for treating an entirely alien species. "Remember, everyone," she addressed her medical team over the intercom, "we're dealing with beings who've just had their entire worldview shattered. They came here expecting easy conquest, and instead encountered technology beyond their comprehension. Many of them will be traumatized, confused, and possibly hostile. Be gentle, be patient, and focus on preserving life above all else." Lieutenant Park Jun-ho, her assistant, checked the portable medical equipment they would carry aboard the alien vessels. "Ma'am, are you sure it's safe? They did try to destroy our planet just hours ago." Dr. Hong smiled sadly. "That's exactly why we need to help them, Jun-ho. Someone has to break the cycle of violence. If we respond to their aggression with more aggression, nothing changes. But if we show them there's another way." The first human medical team to board an Imperial vessel approached the damaged cruiser Iron Fang. The Zephyrian crew watched in stunned silence as humans in white medical uniforms walked through airlocks carrying devices that glowed with soft blue light. Dr. Hong approached a wounded Zephyrian warrior whose left arm had been severed during the gravitational anomalies. The creature's compound eyes showed fear and confusion as she activated her molecular regeneration device. "This might feel strange at first," she said through her translator, her voice calm and reassuring. "We're going to regrow your arm at the cellular level." The Zephyrian warrior watched in amazement as his severed limb began to reconstruct itself, muscle and bone reforming from nothing. Within minutes he had a fully functional arm again. "Impossible," he whispered. "We've never seen healing technology like this. How do you manipulate matter at the molecular level?" "We learned to work with the universe instead of against it," Dr. Hong replied. Moving to the next wounded crew member, aboard Death's Herald, Admiral Vexter made the hardest decision of his military career. He activated his personal log recorder, knowing that his words would determine the future relationship between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire. Personal log, Admiral Vexter, Day 847 of the Conquest Campaign, he began, his voice heavy with the weight of history. "The Empire sent us to conquer primitives and claim their world for Imperial glory. Instead, we have encountered a species that has transcended our understanding of reality itself." He paused, watching through his viewport as human medical personnel moved between Imperial ships, saving lives without asking for anything in return. "We came as conquerors," he continued, "and we leave as students. The humans have shown us technologies that manipulate the very fabric of existence, matter, energy, time, and space itself bend to their will. Yet they use this godlike power, not for conquest, but for healing and protection." A human medical team entered his bridge, led by a young doctor whose hands glowed with healing energy as she treated his wounded crew. Vexter watched in fascination as she repaired cellular damage that should have been irreversible. "The Zephyrian Empire must know," he continued his log, "humanity is not to be conquered. They are to be approached with respect, with humility, and with an open mind. They have offered us knowledge, medical aid, and safe passage home despite our hostile intentions. Perhaps there is a better way than endless conquest." 6 months later, Lunar Station buzzed with activity as the first Zephyrian Human Cultural Exchange Center officially opened. Former Admiral Vexter, now wearing the simple robes of Ambassador Vexter, stood beside Representative Choi Minho as they watched human and Zephyrian scientists working together in laboratories that would have seemed like magic just months before. "I still find it hard to believe," Vexter said, his mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was equivalent to laughter. 6 months ago, I came here to destroy your world. Now I'm learning more about the universe than I did in 50 years of military service." Choi smiled, adjusting the translation device that had become a symbol of their growing friendship. "That's the beautiful thing about knowledge, Ambassador. It grows when shared, rather than diminishing." Through the station's massive windows, they watched a first joint human Zephyrian exploration vessel prepare for launch. The ship incorporated both species' technologies, human reality manipulation systems merged with Zephyrian engineering expertise. The age of Imperial conquest was ending. The age of understanding had begun, and in the vast reaches of space, other species detected the strange energy signatures coming from the Sol system and began asking themselves a question that would change the galaxy forever. Who were these humans, and what could they teach the rest of the universe? The end.